You know, some stories just feel like they've been around forever, whispered from one generation to the next. Well, today we're going to break down a modern Hindi folktale that starts out like your classic ghost story, but wow, it turns into something so much more. A story about grief, greed, and, in the end, a little bit of hope. So let's step inside the world of the Purani Haveli, the old mansion.
Right? Every good horror story has to have that one spooky place, and this line just sets the scene perfectly. This mansion isn't just some building, it's basically a monument to fear. It's a mystery that the whole village is built around.
So here's how we're going to unpack this thing. We'll start with the village and its big fear. Then we'll meet these so-called heirs and their little hoax. We'll join a hunt for treasure, uncover a dark secret, hear a mother's terrible story, and finally, see how this place of horror might just find some hope.
Okay, so our story kicks off in this village called Punpur. It's a pretty quiet, simple place, but it's got this one deep-seated fear that hangs over everything. And it's all about the old mansion, the Haveli, that just looms over the edge of town. This Haveli is ancient, and it's got this creepy kind of beauty to it. But the real reason everyone's so scared isn't the building itself. Nope, it's the legend of who or what is living inside. This strange, wild-haired old woman that people whisper is probably more ghost than human. So into this quiet, superstitious world, things are about to get completely turned upside down. 4 people show up from the city, and when they look at that old Haveli, they don't see a scary, haunted place. They see a big opportunity. So let's meet our crew. You've got Rajiv, his wife Ria, and his 2, let's call them associates, Roman and Prem. They roll into town and confidently announce that they're the rightful heirs to the mansion. And they're not there to move in, they're there to sell it and make a ton of cash.
And right away, you see these two worlds just smash into each other. On one side, you have the villagers who've been living with this fear for generations. And on the other, you have these outsiders who just see a piece of property and think all the local stories are just, silly gossip. And Ria's attitude pretty much says it all. This quote isn't just dismissive, it's almost mocking. The idea that this place of genuine terror for the locals is just another cool backdrop for her Instagram, yeah, that tells you everything you need to know about the gap between their worlds.
Now, just when you think you know where this is all going, a classic clash between tradition and modern life, the story takes a hard right turn. Everybody's reason for being there is about to change, and it's all because of one single word uttered by the old woman. So when the outsiders finally go and confront the old woman, she doesn't do anything scary. Instead, she just mumbles something about a khazana, a treasure that she hid a long, long time ago and can't find. And just like that, this stops being a ghost story. It becomes a treasure hunt. That one word, khazana, is enough to light a fire of greed under absolutely everyone.
And it turns out, greed is a way stronger motivator than fear. Rajiv promises a cut of the treasure to anyone who helps, and boom, that lifelong terror of the Haveli just vanishes. Suddenly, about a dozen villagers, who wouldn't even walk past the place before, are now ready to help tear it apart.
So now you have this really weird team-up, the skeptical outsiders and the terrified villagers, all working together, driven by pure greed. They start tearing through the Haveli, digging, knocking on walls, until they find it. Hidden under a bunch of old junk, there's a secret passage leading down to a basement. Down in that dark, musty cellar, they find it. A heavy, old iron chest. This is it. The moment of truth. All that greed, all that hope is locked up in this one box. So what on earth could be inside? The treasure. It's a child's skeleton. In that one moment, all the dreams of gold and riches just evaporate. It's replaced with pure, absolute horror. But as everyone is recoiling in shock, the old woman lets out this cry of pure joy. She rushes over to the chest, hugging it, calling the bones her treasure. And in that instant, the mystery of the Haveli becomes an unbelievable tragedy. Okay, so faced with this totally disturbing scene, everyone demands an explanation. And the old woman, whose name we finally learn is Gari, she tells her story. And believe me, it completely reframes everything we thought we knew about her. Her story starts decades ago. Gary was a young woman, happily married, living right here in this mansion. She had a baby girl, but her husband was furious. He was desperate for a son to carry on the family name. So, on the advice of some mystic, he performed a gruesome ritual, sacrificing his own infant daughter in that very basement. When Gauri found out what he'd done, her grief just turned into pure rage. She killed him and everyone who helped him. Her mind shattered, and all she had left of her daughter were these remains, which she locked away as her only treasure, before completely losing herself to grief.
So, with this terrible truth finally out in the open, the story pivots for the last time. It moves away from this personal tragedy and becomes about community action, about finding justice and giving a place of horror a brand new purpose. Well, after Gauri's confession, the police get called. But when they ask Rajiv and his buddies for any proof of ownership, they've got nothing. The whole story was a lie. They were just con artists who heard a rumor about an abandoned mansion and cooked up a scheme to sell it illegally. And from all this horror, the community actually does something incredible. First, justice. The 4 scammers get arrested. Then, compassion. They give that infant girl the proper funeral she never had. Gauri is taken to a facility where she can finally get the professional help she's needed for decades. And then, in one final, powerful move, the villagers decide to reclaim the site of this tragedy.
They transform that feared old mansion into a school for girls. And they name it in Gauri's honor. The very place where so much pain was caused by the murder of a little girl because she was a girl is now a place for the empowerment and education of other girls. The story's ending really seems to suggest that maybe no place, no matter how dark its history, is truly beyond saving. And it leaves us with this pretty powerful question, doesn't it? Can a community's compassion really wash away a place's history and turn a symbol of absolute horror into a real beacon of hope?